Biolabs. Biolabs in Ukraine.
Why would there be biolabs in Ukraine?
I don't know. Big conspiracy. Big conspiracy theory.
Are they Ukrainian biolabs?
We'll see. I thought I'd start this off because people might be seeing this as a Pravda moment, and I thought I'd start off with a headline from Pravda, like the literal Pravda in Moscow still. Let's check. And this is funny, if nothing else. Quote from the foreign minister for Russia. "We are not going to attack other countries. We also didn't attack Ukraine." Okay.
It's a bold move.
And we laugh at this.
Yes.
This is hilarious.
Well, it sounds like the Iraqi information minister.
Yes, nothing to see.
Yeah.
Right? And we think, well, as Tucker will say, our elected officials will never do something so brazenly stupid and like
Wow.
us. So obviously,
Well,
for no discernible gain as well. Like we all have the public available information on Ukraine, for example. Let's move forward. Let's go to DuckDuckGo to start this off. DuckDuckGo CEO, so I'd tweet this out. "Like so many others, I am sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. Hashtag I stand with Ukraine." Who is not upset about all these things. So what did he do at DuckDuckGo? At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. What is the point of being DuckDuckGo then? A search engine that prides itself on not being Google.
well, I actually saw one of his responses to this, and he was like, we pride ourselves on not keeping your data, not on not manipulating the search results.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I was like, wow, you really got me there. You know what? Thank God you're not selling my data like I care about that, really, because let's be honest, what can I do about it?
Yeah, but also the kind of people who use DuckDuckGo, the user base, the kind of people that are concerned.
Yes.
You also manipulate
no,
results.
that's the only reason I use DuckDuckGo is to get search results I can't find on Google. I literally have I have DuckDuckGo set where I will until the end of this podcast.
You look up a thing,
Yeah,
and you don't find anything on Google.
exactly.
Type it
And
in.
then I use two different browsers for different things to make sure that I'm using different search engines convenience. But yeah, I've got DuckDuckGo as my main one because I can get results that Google doesn't show me. That was the point.
So keep in mind, how is all this going to go? Let's go to the next one so we can see his justification here, in which he talks about all this, and he says, we won't be manipulated because we don't know anything about you and therefore don't have the capacity to alter individual results based on your search history. You also don't have to worry about a filter bubble on DuckDuckGo search, which is the manipulation of your search results based on a personal profile about you. We'll just do it instead based on our political views.
Yeah,
Which- Okay. Why did you even put this in?
how is that better? But the point is, you don't have to worry about the manipulation of your search results based on a personal profile about you. No, I have to worry about your political interests.
And if we go to the next one here, we can see the fact that apparently the EU were making sanctions against Russia, requiring search engines and social media companies to suppress or disappear Russian news outlets or Russian disinformation, which is, of course, a very broad word and could include biolabs.
Well, it just means anything Russian, really. And so this is the Western Iron Curtain that's going down.
Yeah, but also this Russian misinformation, that could be the biolabs conspiracy theory that the Russians have spread.
Clearly is.
The Russians have been making all this up.
Yep.
Let's go to the next one, in which we could see a hearing in which Secretary of State Victoria Nuland decided to turn up and tell us all about the biolabs in Ukraine. A Russian asset, I'm sure.
A Russian conspiracy theorist is in the US government. Okay.
Yeah. You may remember Victoria Nuland being the one as well who orchestrated who was going to be Prime Minister after the revolution.
Ah, yes.
She picked the Prime Minister over a phone call.
Right.
The F the EU comments for people who don't know. Type that in. Go have a look. Let's play the clip.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
Right, so it begins with we don't have any biological labs in Ukraine, but we are rather worried that the Russians are going to get our biolabs in Ukraine.
Well, she says the Ukrainians have these biolabs. That's her
Oh,
words.
yes, I'm sure they're not funded and operated by Americans.
No, not at all. The Ukrainians are completely operating these. They're only for...
Ukraine is literally the poorest country in Europe. How can they afford biolabs?
Down the back of the sofa, mate. You find cash for this.
Yeah.
So she was asked about, do Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons from senator, and that was her response, saying, well, not chemical, but they do have a bunch of biolabs, and we're worried about it falling into the Russians.
But I mean, the specific.
facilities."
I saw the broader clip where it's like, are there bioweapons labs?
That was the question.
And
from
she was like,
Rio.
they have biological research facilities. It's like, right, okay. I asked for bioweapons. If you're saying biological research facilities, and in response to bioweapons, that implies you're developing weapons there. Otherwise, why would you mention them? You'd be like, no.
So this is where maybe a bit of nuance is. So this is the difference between a lab that's making weapons and a lab that is detecting weapons, or at least this is the wording.
Oh, yeah.
If we go to the next link, we get
Fine distinctions here that I really trust them on.
So that U.S. Embassy link there, sorry, John, if we can get that up, which is the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine saying that, yes, we have these labs, as in we operate them, which is funny. So the U.S. Embassy's position is the biological threat reduction programs priorities in Ukraine are to consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of security concern and to continue to ensure Ukraine can detect and report outbreaks caused by dangerous pathogens before they pose a security or stability threat.
Well, that's what the Russians would also say if they were the ones caught with them.
Yeah, but also just, okay, it's just about detecting the situation. That's all these labs are for. And then they say, well, we're working with them. So it's gone from Ukraine is in charge of these to we're working with them on these. I'm not surprised.
I'm pretty sure the initial response was we don't have any.
Yeah, that was the initial one. So we've moved quite far.
Yeah. So we've gone from we don't have any to the Ukraines to their ones we work with as well.
I love the whole we don't have any, but on your embassy website you have this written. Like anyone can check this website out yourselves.
Why would you say yeah?
But as they say, it's only for detection purposes. So they say that the biolabs have been upgraded. They've upgraded many laboratories for the Ministry of Health and State Food Safety and Consumer Protection Service of Ukraine, reaching biosafety level 2. Keep that in mind.
Right.
In 2019, they also constructed 2 laboratories for the latter, one in Kiev and one in Odesa. That's in 2019. So that's in 2019, there were 2 more, right? Okay, keep those facts in mind.
Isn't Odesa in Georgia?
No, it's in southern Ukraine.
What's the capital of... Oh, I must be thinking of something else.
Don't worry about it. Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia, if that's
right. Okay.
So if we go to the next one, we can...
Foreign places, I don't know.
Yeah. It's this is a thing I saw from David putting out as well, which the WHO, the World Health Organization, says it advised Ukraine to destroy pathogens in health labs to prevent disease spread. Just out of the blue, we're just suddenly very concerned with disease spread from any pathogens the Ukrainians might have. Just issued a statement. Just get rid of them, mate. Just in case. Where have you got them? That's not important.
I like the pathogens in health labs. Sounds very healthy.
Very much for health. Also for no reason. Just where are they? In which labs? We know you've got some. Don't know where, but just get rid of them. Okay, keep that in mind. And then we move forward because Tucker Carlson did a fantastic segment on this that you sent to me, and he burst out laughing to this statement. But we'll go over this because he said that we've been told by the Americans, the Ukrainian government, are operating this, and unnamed Ukrainian officials have said that they don't have any either, which isn't reliable and obviously doesn't make any sense.
Well, he's going through the USA Today fact check where they're like, no, this is totally nonsense. And it's like, okay, where's the source of that rebuttal? And it comes from unnamed officials in the Ukrainian government.
Yep.
Take their word for it.
And then that clip came out of Newland.
Yep.
Which then disproved that initial statement.
Yep.
USA Today saying they fact-checked it as conspiracy theories. The EU also denounced these secret labs, that this story was spread by Russian disinformation.
That came from Ukraine.
I don't know who was alleging they were secret. You can find them online.
Well, that's a great point. There are secret labs. No, they're not. Everyone can find them.
Literally, I will demonstrate to you in a minute how easy they are to find. So,
Snopes fact-check Russian disinformation. Anyone can find the labs.
So the Russians have also made this fake story in which they claim that Kiev are working on plague and anthrax. Keep that in mind. Plague and anthrax. They'll also come back to haunt us. The State Department then says that the US does not own or operate biolabs in Ukraine. As you can see the statement there. But... ... we run diagnostic and defense biolabs. Right, what's the difference there? Now, you can argue the semantic difference is that we're not making bioweapons to be used, but we are using biolabs that are only there for diagnostic purposes to detect if a weapon has been used, or defense biolabs, which presumably, again, to detect or do... I'm not sure.
I would love to see them put this to Putin himself and see the look on his face as he tries to process how phenomenally BS this narrative is.
The concern about all of this is irrelevant to that distinction. Because what we're concerned about is an outbreak happening due to the war. Whether these buildings are bombed, whether someone releases them who's pro-Ukraine.
I just don't believe them.
Well, no, so you saw Victoria say we do have those. So
Yeah.
the materials that are in there, if someone leaks them who is pro-Ukraine and wants to create an incident, or if they are bombed and it's an accidental situation, either way, that's what we're concerned about. Not
Yeah.
whether or not it's offensive or for detection.
No.
It's, do you have these things there?
I mean, I agree that that's a genuine concern. Like, if that was all true, then that would be a genuine concern. I just don't believe them.
There's also the question, which is why didn't you remove all of this when the war looked on the horizon?
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, Russia has been massing troops for years now.
maybe you could say you're there to then, if the war happens, we can detect if biological weapons are used. Maybe, I get, but then you think you'd be panicking at this point, like
Again,
15 days into the war?
I don't believe them.
Move to the next one. We can see Russia's claims on US and Ukraine biolabs absurd, untrue, says US defense officials. Completely not the case. The Kremlin is accusing the US of being involved in biological weapons research at Ukrainian labs, but such claims are laughable and part of a Russian disinformation campaign, according to US defense officials. Again, the weapons. We're not concerned about whether it's weapons, it's whether or not you have these things there that can then leak out, and then we cannot confirm or deny whether or not it's a weapon used by Russia or a potential leak. Or
But I
something
just
else.
can't help but think of the origins of COVID. I mean, it was a Wuhan wet market,
Yeah.
which I was wrong about, by the way, and I should probably apologize for. I was totally wrong. No, it wasn't. No, it came from a lab. Oh, how did it get in the lab? Well, it seems this is a virus that's not found in nature that was funded by Fauci.
So if we go to the next one,
So if we sit there, if they're sitting there going, well, oh yeah, we would never have a biological weapons lab in Ukraine. It's like, well, why would I believe you?
but either way, the threat of what everyone's concerned about here is, let's say it gets leaked, and then everyone doesn't know whether or not the Russians have used them. So the media narrative will become the Russians have used biological weapons. They're deploying anthrax.
Well, yeah, that's
Keep that in mind.
definitely a lie that they would tell. But again,
Therefore, we must do something, and then we end up in a situation where the war's escalated between NATO and Russia.
sure, but I just can't believe this is a truth that they're telling us.
But it's a concern that no one seems to be taken seriously in this debate. Because as you can see, PolitiFact just come out with China have also spread this complete rumor that there are biological weapons labs. That's not the important point of this discussion. It is whether or not, again, there is anthrax or whatnot for detection purposes, even in this area. If we go to the next one, you may also remember, as you said, these fact checks.
Yes.
Let's get the headline here, because the headline is the funniest thing. Oh, if you not got it there? Oh, damn. The headline was from USA
we go.
Today. Coronavirus not man-made or engineered, but its origin remains unclear.
But there is evidence that it is, and it came from the lab, and that Fauci funded it,
But
and we know
regardless,
this.
all of that, let's say fog of war, no one knew this at the time.
Sure.
That sentence doesn't make sense.
Well, no, its origins remain unclear. You can look at a thing and say, okay, I don't know where this came from, but it obviously didn't come from X, Y, or Z. Right? That is fair.
They couldn't know that, though. Oh, and of course,
Maybe
they have
not at
then
the
been
time, of
proven
course.
to not know that.
Sure, but that's not in and of itself exactly wrong. It's very bold, and it's someone lying to you.
Which is why they had to issue a correction.
Yes.
Corrections and clarifications. This fact check has been revised based on updated reporting since it was first published in March
It
2020.
turns out it was man-made and did come from a lab, but actually we paid for it.
And fact checkers don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yes. No, well, they're just towing the party line. That's what the fact checkers are for.
Go to the next one. We can see the National Pulse have got hold of documents in regards to these biolabs and to what capacity they are. And presumably, because these documents are from 2010, they're not made by the Russians,
Right?
who were preparing for a war with what was then their own puppet country. Presumably, they weren't planning all this since 2010. Maybe because everyone always assumes that the Russians are playing 5D chess on a level we can't understand. Usually not. Usually they're as stupid as we are.
Judging by their military performance, I'm going to say no.
And then if we go to the next one, we can see the archive of these documents. So this is, as you can see, June 11th, 2010. US Senator Dick Lugar applauded the opening of the Interim Council Reference Laboratory in Odesa, Ukraine this week, announcing that it will be instrumental in researching dangerous pathogens used by bioterrorists. The Level 3 Biosafety Lab,
It was level 2 prior, wasn't it?
that was the ones they opened in 2019.
Right. Okay.
Apparently in 2010 they opened Level 3 ones.
And I assume level 1 is the highest.
No.
Oh.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Which was first built under the expanded authority of the
Are you saying they've reduced the safety of these labs?
New Lugar Corporation Threat Reduction Program, which will be used to study anthrax. Remember that? Remember that from earlier? How it was a conspiracy that there's anthrax?
Huh.
Okay. To Luminaria, don't know what that is, and Q fever, as well as other dangerous pathogens. Lugar said the plans of the facility began in 2005 when he said then Senator Barack Obama entered in a partnership with Ukrainian officials. So Obama's involved in this. Again, we have no idea where they don't
Senators
exist.
can do that, can they?
We literally went there in 2005 and organized the setting up of one. Right?
Just
So-
anthrax, bro.
This level thing, let's go to the Wikipedia page, because again, no expert on this stuff. I can only read what is written for such laymen as myself on this matter. Biosafety levels. So, the levels for safety precautions starts at level 1,
Yep.
goes to level 4, level 4 being highest.
Right.
So remember, there were level 2 ones being set up in
Yep.
2019, and then there was a level 3 one being set up in 2010, and then you've got level 4, which is like, holy crap, this is bad. And then you've got level 4 plus extraterrestrial samples, which is for bringing stuff back from space.
Right,
Which I
okay.
just found funny. So I
Yeah,
included
that's
that.
awesome.
These are all defined by the CDC. Keep that in mind. Let's go to the next one, which is, I looked up just anthrax. Apparently that's meant to be kept at level 3.
Right.
So that one in Odessa probably has anthrax.
Right.
Keeping in mind,
Why? What's in the level 3 one, if not?
which is why they said in the letter there,
Yeah.
as you remember, anthrax they were keeping. Let's go to the next link, which is that I found a document that was also released on the National Pulse website that has an address. The state institution, Milikov Ukrainian Scientific and Research Anti-Plague Institute's address 2/4, Truskova Street, Odessa 65003. And then they have the various descriptions of what they're doing. As you can see, they have pathogen group 2s there as well.
Marburg virus, Ebola virus, God, Congo hemorrhagic fever virus. Oh God, this sounds awful.
This is wonderful to have in the middle of a war.
That's just group 1 as well.
There's no way this thing could get blown up, and we'd all be very upset. And what would happen? Let's go to the next one.
I mean,
which-
your average rough Russian infantryman surely knows not to fire at whatever this building is, right?
it's very clearly marked.
Yeah.
If we go to the next one, we can see the fact that apparently the institute also offers masters in microbiology and virology. So it's probably the right place, probably where it is. And then we tried to find it, me and John, using Google Maps, using the address given. We couldn't. On Google Maps, it doesn't work, which is funny. But you had to have the street. So we had a look on the street and started going down to see what we could find. And we did find this building, which was the only building on that street which could fit this description. Because if you zoom in on there, on that little blue sign, that says medical laboratory.
Look at it though. Look at the state of it.
Yeah, there's your signage. Please don't shoot at this building. Great. I don't know if you can zoom out and turn to the right, John, because this is also just out of interest.
How would you distinguish that from anything?
Don't know if you can move down the street quite a bit. Just keep moving down, and at the end of this street, like not far, but just at the end of it, there is, as you can see, the chimneys. There's a power plant
Oh, good.
over there, looking very normal. If you turn to your right there, and then you can go to the front gates, which are very interesting as well. So we don't know if we found it there, but that is the only thing on that street that is labeled medical laboratory, and is also suitable for being some kind of lab.
What's notable about this?
Oh, this is just the gas power plant, very nearby. So if you
Right.
wanted to blow that up, it's nice and close to the
Right,
lab.
right.
Wonderful. That's fantastic, or at least the suspected lab. Let's go to the next one, because we have a document that also confirmed all of this as being true, as in that place is the place.
Yeah.
Because don't scroll down, because we'll end up doxing the guys who run it.
Yeah, don't do that.
So Sergei V. Pozdrovkov is the director, PhD, and his operations are at 2/4, Trinskova Street, Odessa 65003, Ukraine.
Right.
The exact address I just read out.
Right.
And, well, the only building on that street that looks like one that is labeled Medical Biolab is the one we found. He is studying biological properties of these, there's a big long acronym, see if I can remember, quarantine and other especially dangerous infections, QOEDI. So he is studying the properties of such things in order to estimate the I can't say these words, can I?
Epidemiological.
Not my first language. Potential. Development of new or improved methods for diagnosing such things. And also, the Institute's laboratories fulfill monitoring of related territories and are ready for quick indication and identification of such things. Okay, so they're there for the detection, as was warned. The objects of biological pathological agents of level 3 to 4 classification. The highest levels. The ones that would be holding anthrax again. So, presumably there's either multiple, and they're all at different levels in Odessa, or it's this one, and no one can seem to agree on what level it's meant to be, or what it's meant to be
God.
holding. Interesting. And then we go to the next link, which is that we keep getting told this. Russia could use chemical or biological weapons. White House warns,
Oh, yeah.
endlessly.
Yeah, yeah. What about...
I don't-
This is a narrative we've heard before, isn't it?
Sure, but I don't put it past them. We must keep
No,
this
I
in
don't
mind.
put it past them either.
I don't put it past the Russians to not use such things. But what I am really worried about, and what I think is a substantial worry and isn't some conspiracy theory, is, well, these places exist. You've got confirmation from the embassy, from Newland, from the documents you could just find easily online.
We can see their address and we looked at the building.
Google Maparoos. And you can find these places, and they're meant to be holding anthrax and all kinds of other things. And if those get hit, or someone sympathetic to Ukraine, and I'm not saying this out of no reason, and I'll prove that in a minute, so maybe an American who is sympathetic to Ukraine releases such things, so they can have the story, look, the Russians have used biological weapons, we must do something. And I bet if this happens, that will be the narrative.
Which is definitely not the narrative they used in Syria.
And if you're wondering why I keep saying that some American would be dastardly enough to do such a thing, it's because we actually have an example from 2001.
Okay, go on.
Go to the next link. You may remember this story. Remember this? 2001?
No,
after
no.
9/11? Anthrax?
No,
Anthrax
not
getting released?
a fan.
Right. So Anthrax was released in the United States, and people were freaking out because it's like, what the hell? Mm-hmm. This story was eventually summed up, and they got the guy. At least the FBI say so. 7 years later, they solved the case, and it was an American Army microbiologist who released the anthrax.
Why?
Motive: the anthrax vaccine program, to which Dr. Evans had devoted his entire career of more than 20 years, was failing. Following the anthrax attacks, however, his program was suddenly rejuvenated.
Or is he going to get more funding?
But also interest in anthrax vaccines, because we should take it seriously.
Right.
So that's why he did that. He killed 8 people so that he could gin up support, so he could then save more people's lives with the interest in a vaccine program.
So forward thinking.
Yeah, so I don't put it past that, again, there are mentally unstable people who could do such things in a situation in Odessa or where else.
We need to protect people with anthrax. Why? Because I'm about to release some.
It is big brain.
That's a 4D chess move if ever I've seen one.
It is as big brain as Al-Qaeda blowing up Muslims to protect the Muslim world.
Yeah, radicalize the moderates against anthrax.
Yeah. And if we go to the next one, I wanted to mention some other social media madness that's going on. So quickly, Facebook allow hate speech against the Russians. Amazing. Meta platform will allow Facebook and Instagram users in some countries to call for violence against Russians and Russian soldiers in the context of Ukraine's invasion, according to internal emails seen by Reuters on Thursday in a temporary change to its hate speech policy.
I love this so much. Facebook's like, hate speech is bad. So really? Well, not all hate speech. So really, what's the good hate speech? Facebook?
The good hate speech is if you're a Russian in Ukraine, we can call for your death, a soldier or not, apparently. Civilians in the Federation, different matter.
Oh, right, okay.
But
so you
also
have to be a Russian in Ukraine.
Also, you can now call for assassinations of Vladimir Putin or Alexander Lukashenko. That's allowed now. That's perfectly allowed.
Is this because, what's his face? The Kentucky chicken guy. Why can't I remember his name?
The Colonel?
No, well, yeah. But, American politician. Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, right.
Just because Lindsey Graham did it.
Chicken man.
Yeah, well, he is, basically.
Yeah, literally. So they've changed that. You can now call for the Russian invaders to be killed.
But for how long? You know, like, then in 6 months' time it'll be over, they'll take it back and then you get a strike.
Yeah.
Just don't bother. Don't bother.
Don't do it. Because also, this only applies to certain countries, funnily enough. They say...
oh, yeah, the privileged access to hate speech in this country now.
Yeah, hate speech is based only in these countries, according to Facebook. Armenia, Azerbaijan, Estonia, Georgia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Russia.
Okay.
Slovakia, Ukraine. So the old Soviet sphere.
Yeah.
Except Germany. The East Germans can't do it.
Yeah.
But everyone else can.
This is stupid.
This is so dumb. The Russians have responded by saying users of Facebook and Instagram did not give the owners of these platforms the right to determine the criteria of truth and pit nations against each other.
Fair.
As much as the Russians are the Russians, that statement is true.
It's like Vorsh being misogynistic. Occasionally they get something right.
The end of this statement. Emails also shown that Meta would allow praise of the right wing Azov battalion.
The literal Nazis.
This is right wing.
They're not allowed to use Facebook because they're literally Nazis. But you are allowed to praise them now on Facebook.
They are on VK.
I'm sure they are.
There are lots of Russian Nazis on VK as well.
I'm sure there are.
We'll do a segment on that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just right wing. All right, that's yeah. I know they're not all Nazis, but right wing. Right.
No, they're our Ceausescu battalion now.
Which is normally prohibited, is now allowed. Which the Meta spokesperson said previously the company was for banning such things. However, they are now allowed narrow exceptions for praise for Azov, strictly in the context of defending Ukraine or in their role as part of the Ukrainian National Guard.
Praising Azov battalion as Nazis is not based, and you're not allowed to do it until it becomes based, and then you can do it.
Until they're our Nazis.
Yeah.
We'll get into the fact that Al-Qaeda are also defending Ukraine now, which so we can now presumably also praise Al-Qaeda for the defense of Ukraine.
You must be thrilled with all of this, really. You know,
I love memes.
some of your social media feeds lighting up.
Let's get to the next one, because I also added this off with another stupid thing from our overlords on social media, which is the UN.
Oh.
So UN Moldova tweeted this out. Women and girls bear the brunt of the crisis. 91% of Ukrainian refugees in Moldova are women and girls.
Hang on a second. Refugees are people who are not in the fighting and therefore are not dying to the war.
No.
They're secondary
Oh, do you not remember?
victims of the crisis.
These aren't refugees. Come on, there's too many women and children.
Well, sure.
Do you not remember what real refugees look like?
Yes, young
Fighting
Middle
age
Eastern
men?
men. Yeah.
Who end up doing so many bad things, they
But-
get the moniker
but-
refugee.
Bear the brunt of the crisis. Again, it's the Hillary Clinton, well, women are the primary victims of war. It's like, really? The people who get shot on the front lines are no longer the primary victims of war.
Well, they're not going to live for long anyway, so.
Well, I guess not. Yeah.
So these are the primary victims, or bearing the brunt. It is our shared responsibility to ensure women and girls' rights are respected. We need hashtag gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Send them back.
Yeah, conscript them to the front lines.
You're a woman. Gender equality. Here's an AK.
Being a refugee is bearing the brunt of the crisis. Being on the front lines is just based.
Yeah, also the girls. Presumably the girls themselves also are going to be given guns. We're going to have child soldiers.
The boys were?
No, the boys could leave, apparently, as long as the gender equality and the number of boys and girls. But if there are too many girls, we'll send the girls back and we can have a girl-child shoulder army fighting the Russians
Under the pride flag.
for equality. If we go to the last one here, the UN Russian account also decided to go on this bandwagon. And we click on the images. The first one is them saying the same nonsense.
Yeah.
The main burden of this crisis is borne by women, of course. And then someone, if we go through these images, points out the bleeding obvious, which is that men are conscripted for the war and aren't allowed to leave. You utter scum. And then the last one is them responding by just blocking. Of course. But anyway, that's the story with the Biolabs and our social media overlords, who determines what misinformation is until it's not misinformation. If you appreciate that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as a Bo's interview here with Simon Webb, or you may know on YouTube as History Debunked, or Debunked. If you want to find out what else we're putting out, you can always follow us on Getter at @lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.